Good day and welcome to this special interview with His Excellency President Donald Ramotar, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity again to talk about some topical issues in Guyana at the moment.
Thank you.
I want to start off with the economy. The last time we spoke, we were examining the half-year report, which showed Guyana would have recorded 3.2% economic growth for the first half of the year. How has things been going so far with the prospects of the economy?
Well, the economy continues to grow. The macroeconomic fundamentals are in place. We have a stable exchange rate. We have low inflation. So the economy continues to grow. We're having investments. I just went to Aurora mining. I mean, I know that there's talk that we're not creating jobs, but I saw 700 people employed there at Aurora as they're building a gold mine, and they are also a big, another mine. It will be starting up very soon. They start construction already, another gold mine. So we're having a lot of investment, a lot of infrastructural work slowed down because of the lack of quarry materials. Well, I've instructed the minister to issue some more quarry license to people so that we can increase the production in stone, so that we can have more of our roads and so forth. Contractors who have not been getting material will get. So those things are being accelerated at this point in time. Generally, as I said, there's quite a bit of investment in tourism. There's more and more investment in tourism, and we can also see that the sector growing. We have an increase up to this point in time compared to last year. We have an increase in arrivals, and most of the hotels, I understand, are doing very well at this point in time. Of course, new projects are beginning to come on stream. You know, the Marriott Hotel is expected to come on stream before the end of the year. And so generally, I would say that the economy is doing quite well at this point in time. I expect that it will, with the production now of hopefully that sugar will do better in this second quarter. And the price of sugar is a little bit low. That's some of the challenges that we face. But this year, I'm expecting a better year than last year. And I think that the industry is fairly well on its road of recovery. So generally, I would say things are going well. There are new sectors that are developing too with the advent of new technology. You know, information technology has penetrated in almost every aspect of life. And therefore, a new set of industries are growing, and new set of businesses are growing with the advent of this technology generally. So we're having a sizable investment. We also are looking forward to are still pursuing some of the investment that has been stymied in the past. For instance, the Amila Falls investment, we are still working on it. We want to get it moving because we think that that is extremely important. Cheap energy is vital for our rapid economic development. Had it not been for the obstructionist role that the opposition is playing as far as the economy is concerned, I think we could have been growing much, much faster. I think that despite their obstructionist role, our economy is doing quite well. We also are working with the Brazilians. They're also looking at some hydro potentials. We're also looking at the question of the road, to pave the road so we can reduce the time of traveling, and that will help enormously. We're also having some good investments in agriculture. We want to broaden the base of our agriculture more and more. We're expecting to have begin production here very shortly in soybeans, possibly corn as well. And also, I have been speaking with the Minister of Agriculture to pay more attention to the coconut industry, which I think got big possibilities. As you know, we're also free from foot and mouth disease, so we need to stimulate even further the livestock industries, particularly the cattle industry in our country, so that we can have much more revenue stream coming into our country at this point in time.
Mr. President, you spoke about the sugar. You're seeing some recovery despite the prices being low and so on. I know your government would have been working on market opportunities for rice. We've already secured one of those opportunities. Could you say what is the current status with the other markets that you're pursuing?
We continue to pursue them. The reports that I have been having is that the people in the ministry, Ministry of Agriculture, they are very optimistic that we will be closing in on some more agreements with other countries in Central America, possibly even Africa, South America, and so forth. So we continue to pursue these with the rice, and that's looking good. Sugar, too, I think we have to start looking at other markets, apart from the traditional markets. We have to look at other markets as well. I don't know, I mean, some of the international political developments, while in a way negative, can probably offer some opportunity for us. The fact that Russia is looking for alternative supply for meat and agricultural products, we have to see how it's possible for us to benefit from that if we can tap into that market in our society as well. So the prospects are the challenges we face are more external, with relating to prices and so forth. That is why it's important for us to broaden our base in agriculture where it's necessary. And we don't have big control of that. But generally, at the production level, in the rice industry, we have seen a major revolution, I would say. And in the sugar industry, there are clear signs that that we are recovering from the restructuring that had to take place, you know.
Mr. President, you touched on a few of the transformational projects, particularly the Linden-to-Lethem Road, that being completed, the prospects there. You touched also on the issue of cheap energy and pushing ahead with the hydropower. But let us talk a little about some of the other transformational projects in terms of an update at where they are, the airport expansion, etc. Tell us a little about the current state.
But those are going ahead. As you know, we have some contractual arrangements there, and so we have been moving ahead with that. And that is vital, too, because it also will make our country, has the possibility of making Guyana into a major international hub, something as Panama is at this point in time, or different hubs. Because if you look where we are situated on the map, you will see that geographically we are almost in the middle of the northern and southern hemisphere, which offers a great possibility for us to be a good hub. We have been attracting a lot more airlines now, a lot more Guyanese will have access to much different kind of routes, and there's a great interest in Guyana because of the positive economic growth that we have been having all the time. There's much more interest. I've just had a meeting with some people from this routes development area, and they're extremely optimistic about the possibility of attracting much more airlines to our country at this point in time, which will mean very well for the tourism sector, the hospitality sector as a whole. Will be doing well. We have to prepare for these things. We have to put in the infrastructure. The last budget we have planning to build a school for the hospitality sector to work there. that's a major project we'll have to be doing, because as you know, our people, there's a big change in taking place in Guyana because of the fact that the economy has been growing and the government's emphasis on developing human capital is now, we now have a far more educated population than it was in 1992. We have a far more educated workforce than we had in 1992. And you can see that too clearly from the passes at the different examinations. We have the University of Guyana, also the enrollment is quite big. We are even planning to move towards distance education so that people can have a degree while not being physically at the campus at the University of Guyana, because those possibilities have been opened up by the information technology. So we have a huge, as a result of that, some of that is partly causing some difficulties with labor. There's some shortage of labor. For instance, I've said before on many occasions about one of the issues in the sugar industry is not only to restructure the industry, but the availability of labor. And labor turnout, it's quite low at the level of the industry. That is why we have to think about mechanization in there. And that's largely because more and more people are wanting to do other jobs instead of only laboring work, largely because of the standard of education has been going up tremendously in Guyana. Also, the social services area has grown. I mean, more people now own their own homes. That too has a big stimulating effect on the economy. Every house, it's not only investment. I mean, I know you asked me about investment earlier, but it's not only investment, the big investment, the big massive investment like the Aurora mines and so on and so forth, but also it is the investment by people every day, ordinary people making investment and building their own home, many Guyanese opening their own businesses, and all of that is helping to drive the people, more possibilities, more opportunities are developing for people at this point in time that they are able now to take advantage of because of the higher level of education in our country at this point in time.
Talking about agriculture, though, you've always attached significant importance to the issue of agriculture and diversifying the sector. Mm-hmm. I've known of many cases where you continuously talk about creating ways in which young people could get involved more and more in agriculture, if not at the planting level, but at least make some sort of contribution. What are some of the initiatives your government has been working on to diversify the sector?
Well, we try to use more science and technology into the agricultural area. Over the last couple of weeks, I opened commissioned two very important laboratories at the Nari and the Monrepo area. Because now we have to, this is the direction we have to go, to apply more science and technology in the development of agriculture. So agriculture is becoming attractive to young, bright people because it's now demanding more and more educated farmers, that the farmers got to be more educated, both at the level of the farmers and at the level of the services that it has to be provided to the industry. It is making a greater demand on the personnel, the human personnel, to be there. So that is the challenge, I think, that is stimulating and will stimulate more and more young people to get involved in agriculture because it's an exciting field. There is also, as you know, the whole world still talks about one of the global problems being the problem of food, and all countries almost are now speaking about food security, and therefore to ensure that we have food security, there's a lot more emphasis now on the greater introduction of science and technology into the agri-sector, and that itself is going to attract more and more young people to the sector as well. And apart from that, of course, it gives people a good living. It gives people a good quality of life, and that will attract more people to the sector.
You talk about the issue of creating opportunities for young people. Recently, there was a huge unrest, not in terms of a riot per se, but unrest in the minds of University of Guyana students. They were very, very uncertain about their future with regards to their loans. Your government would have reinstated the loan amount, and I understand that not just you would have reinstated the loan amount, the loan money for the students and the subvention for the university, but you've created some increases there. You want to talk a little about that?
Yes, you know, that is one of the areas that was cut from the budget, from the 2014 budget, and that is one of the areas that we have restored in the budget. That is one of the areas that we have restored that seems to have annoyed the opposition and led them to start talking about laying bill for no confidence, because we restored the budget for students and increased it because the University of Guyana, and that fee was set in the 1990s in order to keep up to date with what is happening. They had to be increased. It's not really an increase, but it's taken into consideration inflation and so forth. So we had to increase the allocation to that, similar to the cuts in the Amerindian community. This is Amerindian month, but you know that we had the Amerindian Development Fund was cut. We restored that as well. We also had to restore the airstrips in transport, many of the airstrips in those areas, many areas that are not accessible by road and only accessible by air. So we all had to restore those things in those various communities. Of course, we had, it reflects the mentality of what we have to deal with, in the sense that having restored those things to prevent people, ordinary people, from suffering, that has now resulted in them moving a no-confidence motion because of the restoration that we're doing to assist people from feeling many of the brunt of some of these different kinds of attacks that have been taking place.
So you're being punished for your good deeds in sense. Let us talk about this. Seems to be an issue that is now coming back it's more on the front burner with regards to a national alliance. Your government would have, from time to time, said over and over that, you know, fostering national alliance for good governance is one of the hallmarks of your party and your government. Tell us about some of those initiatives.
No, that's true. That's very true. You know, the PPP has the record. I mean, the record is there to show. And we have always constantly fought for national unity and bringing people together. Of course, these things can take a different form. But fundamental to that, at the very basis of all of that, is the question of building trust. And that, I think, we continually still have to work on. I mean, let's take, for instance, we were just speaking about the cuts in our budget and where they were directed at. They were directed at that Amerindian Development Fund. They were directed at university students. Those cuts in the budget, the last budget. Why would they want to do that? Why would anyone want to do that? We had to restore those things. What would have happened if, you know, if we don't restore those things? What would be the consequences for ordinary people if those things were not things? So we need to need to build trust. For instance, I'll give you another example. I just spoke about we pushing ahead with Amila. But if we had gotten the Amila moving already, of course, that would have been a big stimulus into the economy. But we had it cut when they know that cheap energy is vital for social and economic development in our society. I mean, even today, many business people now are big companies that use a lot of electricity. Some of them got their own plant. They are beginning to talk about importing liquidized gas, natural gas, to make it cheaper for production so that they could become more competitive. Well, this hydroelectricity will make our whole country much more competitive, much more attractive for investment in not only primary areas, but in processing and secondary and tertiary areas of the development, adding value. That is extremely important. And the opposition knows this. I mean, I heard one of them made a statement saying that they would ban the export of logs if they come to government. Now, I would love to do that, but we can only do that if we have cheap energy so that we can add value to those things, to add value to the timber that we have, the wood that we have, make more finished products for exports. Otherwise, to talk about that now when we don't have the cheap energy is idle talk, because all it's going to do is putting pressure on poor people. And generally, of course, I would like to also say that although we've been having appreciable investment, I want to also notice the attacks, the constant attack. I mean, I want to condemn, first of all, the attack on Chinese investment. China is the second largest economy in the world today. It's a major source of investment in many, many countries in the world. It has not broken any of our laws. They have not been doing any of the things that people say. So how could the opposition continue this vile attack and then, you know, at the same time speak about national government and so forth? You need to build trust for these things to actually work. How can we not pass the anti-money laundering bill, which is so important for business transactions, for dealing with something that can have an impact on everybody's life? And how are we going to work? These are important areas that demonstrate the need for us to have common positions on these things. You know, our party too, in government, we had worked on several things, the national development strategy, different joint things, because we believe that building consensus not only goes between political parties, we continue to strive for that and work towards that, but it goes also with social forces, dealing with the labor, with private sector, with professional groups, all of these different interest groups that exist within the country itself, creating working relationship and understanding with them. All of this is whole part of building consensus and to take our country forward in a where people agree on the fundamentals within the society. Those are some of the things that we are constantly working on. While we are open to talks with everyone, we continue to work with all the social forces in our country so that we can have a bigger understanding and a greater appreciation of each other's position in the interest of advancing our country.
As the Commander-in-Chief, with regards to the issue of gun-related crimes, you may care to update us on the efforts of the security forces to tackle the issue, particularly gun-related crimes.
Well, part of the problem with the gun-related crime is the amount of weapons on the illegal weapons, that is, on the streets in our country. Some of them, of course, has come in because of the smuggling and so on and so forth. Some of them has come over because of our past history, as you have been seen coming out of the Rodney Commission, where some of them were issued to a political party, the PNC, and some of them found themselves in the hands of the criminals. That is why, in answer to a question at my last press conference, I said that when those guns were handed over, Mr. Granger was the commander in the GDF at that point in time, and it was handed over to the PNC. So now that he's the leader of the PNC, I think he has a responsibility to hand those weapons back. because we know that some of them found themselves into the hands of criminal elements in the society. A few years ago in Mahika or Maikoni, when the police had a confrontation with criminal elements, some of the weapons there that were used were weapons from that stock. And we also know that that there were weapons lost from the army more recently, and not all of them were recovered. So we have to, the armed forces, the security forces are constantly working to try their best to take weapons off the road. We have gotten equipment to destroy those weapons when we take them off the road so that we reduce them. They don't go back into anyone's hands, that they are destroyed. We have acquired that piece of machinery. So as we take the illegal weapons off the road, we destroy them to reduce that amount. And the security forces are every day working to reduce the amount of illegal weapons on our road. I've also noticed the increased detection. I mean, they're still not where I would like it. I would like to see 100% solving of every crime and preventing every crime from taking place. But also I must say that I've noticed good, more solid detective work taking place. And with our investment too, in the science here too has penetrated into this area. And that is why we have spent a lot of money to establish a lab so that the police and the security forces will have access to using a science and technology as it's applied to solving crimes, finding criminals, and even trying to prevent these type of things from taking place.
Mr. President, we're in Armenian Heritage Month, and it would be remiss of me not to ask you to maybe spend some time to talk about your government's emphasis and efforts to ensure equality or to bring Armenians in line with the benefits that us on the coast are enjoying.
Well, the only way to do that, I mean, our foundation of the PPP, of the party, is rooted in equal opportunity to all, for all. The Amerindians have been, for centuries, been left out of the mainstream because they didn't have access to many, many things that people on the coastland has been having. But we have been pushing ahead to make those facilities available. Schools, for instance, we have been building new schools in all over our country, throughout the coastal and the interior area. But in the interior area, for the first time, they're having nursery schools, proper primary schools. They're having secondary schools. We're building dormitories, providing them with uniforms, providing a lot of them with 3 meals a day, living in the dormitories, books, everything. And we are beginning to see that turn around. Only this morning I had a conversation with the Minister of Amerindian Affairs, and one of the issues being raised is the amount of more students from the interior, Amerindian students, attending the University of Guyana, and the need for us to try to look to facilitate that from the point of view of finding accommodation for where they can stay and so forth when they move far from their homes. So this is another challenge we have, which shows very clearly that the services that we have being provided in the interior, we're now building a new school at Cato. We have to probably build a new school in Region 7, secondary school, that there's a greater appreciation for education and a greater awareness of the importance of education in the fight against poverty and in advancing society. And now students are now not only going and attending and passing secondary schools, but they're going further. We never had so many interior students, Amerindian students, at the various institutions of higher learning in Guyana, the university, the Technical Institute, the Guyana School of Agriculture, different areas that where they're having. So by providing these facilities, we are actually building the foundations for giving everyone equal opportunity to what is available within our country. That is what is important, and I think that we are discharging our functions well. We are also, that is one of the reasons the cut in the budget was so tragic in the Amerindian, because while we have done an enormous amount in the social spheres, health, education, housing too, we have had an impact in Amerindian communities. It is also very important to improve the village economy. And this cut from our budget was directed to helping the village economies to develop, to be in a stronger position so that they can produce more in less time, have more time to study for self-development, self-awareness, etc., etc. So I would say that we have pursued that goal from the beginning of our, whether in and out of government. And now that we are in government, we are making it into a reality where every person in Guyana will have equal opportunity to express themselves, to develop themselves, to go as far as they can possibly go, to try to avoid the limits, and so that they can reach their full potentials.
Mr. President, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I think you have given us an opportunity to examine issues that, there may have been some questions regarding, the full disclosure with regards to some of these issues. So I want to thank you very much for joining us today, and I want to thank you very much for joining us.